pleased to have you as one of our speakers at this year's Global Testing Retreat, which is also the fifth edition of the conference. So, Ranjit, can I request you to briefly introduce yourself, say something about you?
Sure, sure. First of all, thank you for letting me speak in this great event. I would really love to do that, and it's a great honor. About myself, I've been in the industry for more than 15 years, and I've been into a lot of product companies and service companies, and I'm primarily a consultant myself. Along with that, I've been founding three startups, one in the social side and two normal startups, in which one is pretty much 2 to 3 years old. I also have around 10 patents, and I've been always interested in innovation. So that's something that I am always passionate about. About books, I have three books into my credits and several papers and conference presentations. That would be my brief.
Amazing, Ranjit. That sounds very great. Coming to your topic, Ranjit, it is test driving self-learning systems to continuous delivery. So you're going to speak on that. So I just read a few things about that. So it's more on ML side and how that can improve the testing things in the scenario. So can you say something more on that, and what would be the key takeaways for the audience?
Sure. One of the key things when we look at traditional testing or testing non-ML systems, right? I think we should start with that. Is we have an approach where we have a system, that is, we have a production code, and we have something called as test data or test cases. What we always believe is that based on the input that we provide, there is some transformation happening, and then there is an output. And this particular output is what we typically assert onto, or we say we know that this is going to be the output, and that's how we automate it. Or even if you're doing manual testing, right? So this is the assumption that the code doesn't change, or the behavior of the system is something that has been constant, or whenever the behavior changes, you need to change your test. So that's the relationship that is there. But whenever we come into a state where ML is brought into, especially when we are talking about ML, we are looking at machine learning, right? Here, when you look at the systems, it's a bit different from the traditional systems. Here you have another variable. Here, the system depends not only on the code, but also on the data part of it. Now, assume that the code and the data was constant. The previous equation would have worked. That is, one could have had their test cases and behavior of the system, which in this case is code plus data, and they would assert on the outcome or the behavior. But what happens in self-learning systems is this data part is not constant, and it's continuously changing. It's changing every minute. It learns every second. And hence what happens is maybe the initial set of test cases that one person writes, since the system is changing and hence the behavior could also change, it doesn't always lead to a green. That is, green means a pass in the test case. Initially, it would work well, pretty well, but during the progress of time, you would see that the system behavior is changing constantly. Now, in such cases, you will, I mean, as if you've been in software development, a flaky test is something that would always put you down. And especially if you are in a continuous delivery mode or continuous deployment mode, your trust is on your test suite, right? You entirely depend on it to be perfect. And when you have such situations, you can never test drive systems into a continuous. So my talk is primarily focused on addressing the problem which I just discussed about, and it's more experiential in nature, where whenever I was a consultant helping other companies build their test strategy, this is something that we have tried out. I don't call myself as an expert in this field because this is something that changes every now and then. So I'm going to share my experience of how we approached such problems in the real world, And I hope this could be more interactive, and I could learn from you also with your context bringing in and your questions that you ask. So that's the overall crux of the talk.
Thank you so much, Ranjit, for that. I think your insights and experience in this area would be really helpful for the folks, and they would learn a lot. And as you rightly mentioned, that this is constantly evolving. So it's like ML is a new area which is there in the industry, and it's constantly changing. So there are a lot of new use cases, a lot of new things which are coming, and we all are evolving with the technology, I can say.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So moving ahead, Ranjit, I would like to ask some couple of questions more before I let you go. So you mentioned that you have three books to your credit. So it's like since you have books to your credit, I believe that you are a reader as well. So it's like some favorite author or some favorite book that you would like to share with us.
Definitely. I think I've been an avid reader, and though I would say that the best book is still the classic of Mahatma Gandhi's autobiography, and he's one of my um, uh, uh, what I call inspirational person. Though I read it very late, I thought it was a childlike book, but it was much more than that. I think I do believe that everyone should at least read it once. So that's something that I would love to share.
Thank you so much, Ranjit. I believe the name of the book is My Experiments with the Truth, if I recollect it correct.
Absolutely, my experiments with truth, and it lives to that name. I think that's what it's all about. How Mahatma Gandhi, as we know, and what Mahatma Gandhi himself had perceptions in himself, and his various experiments across his life, from his childhood days to the later days of the freedom struggle. I think that's totally coming out through. It gives us a no, I mean, gives us a lot of confidence, saying that we are all imperfect, and the imperfection is something that we need to strive to understand first of all, and then go ahead. I think that gives grounds us a lot, and I think that is something that has changed the way in which I've been thinking after I've read that book.
Thank you so much, Ranjit, for sharing that. And I think Gandhiji continues to inspire us, and not just us as Indians, but everyone across the globe till this day.
Absolutely.
So moving ahead, Ranjit, you also mentioned that you have founded three startups, one on the social side and two on the other side. So it's like, so I wanted to ask you that what keeps you going on a daily basis? So is this your work or the things that you are doing on the social side, or what is that that drives you on a daily basis?
Yes, it's an interesting question, and it's something that I am still finding, looking for answers as seeking, right? But a lot of this comes, whether we want to do something, comes like a calling, and that's something that I always listen to. It's more intuitive in nature, so I think like my intuition to drive me to whatever I need to do. It's like walking, I mean, closing your eyes and walking, but that's how I love to do that. And I think in that, you might not want to look at profits alone. You don't want to just look at making money or power. There are other dimensions that you would want to explore. So I would say that keep listen to your heart more than to your brain.
Thank you so much, Ranjit. I think listening to the heart is always right. I suppose that there are no regrets after all.
Absolutely, yeah, but it's a very difficult thing. I'm still struggling. I get confused when there are conflicting voices, when the brain says it's very difficult. And I'm in the
Right,
same boat as most of them are trying to
right,
figure
right,
it.
right. It's a difficult call to take when both are not in sync with each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
moving ahead, Ranjit, I wanted to ask you something on the technology side. So your talk is on the ML side of things, right? And we see there are a lot of new technology trends which are evolving in the industry. So it's blockchain. We hear about AI. We hear about cloud, and a lot of new technologies, right? So where do you see the current technology trend evolving, and where do you see today's tester placed in that technology trend?
Great. Testing as an what do you call a software engineering what do you call process, right? It's definitely going to be there, and it's going to be the heart of it. The only thing is that a lot of emphasis have increased in the way in which quality, we need to focus a lot on quality, right? Because today, if you look at software systems in comparison to a decade ago, software systems earlier were just another system. But today, if you look at it, it's more of the system. Like if your traffic lights run on software, your ATC, that air traffic control, runs on software, safety critical systems run banking, telephone, everything that you just look at it, it's becoming the system that we rely on. So the role of quality and the role of testers overall is something that is becoming even more emphasized. Saying so, there has been a lot of dimensional shifts that is happening today. You don't have a tester that does manual testing. He or she is a programmer or a developer himself or herself, but has got this acumen of thinking of how to break the system, and trying to ensure that the system doesn't break when it's live over there. So I think there is a lot of accountability and responsibility on the hands of people who are ensuring that software products today, which are life saving products, or the system that we rely on, whether it is from your traffic lights to your banking, money, or anything. I think that accountability is on the tester, the new generation or the modern tester. And I strongly believe that that sense of ownership has to be developed. I think that is something that we are struggling in this generation, because if things go incorrectly or badly, the impact is very huge. I'm pretty sure that the community is rising up to that need that is there right now. And slowly we would definitely, irrespective of what technology we are, the purpose of what we are serving, that's more important. And that is something that we'll be looking forward.
Thank you so much, Ranjit, for your views on that. And you rightly mentioned that software is the thing, right? And it has become so ingrained in our lives that we take it as a by default. So, right from traffic lights to any other complex system, so software is the by default. And testers needs to evolve in a multidisciplinary disciplinary approach. I think that's the key, and that's how the things would evolve further.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So Ranjit, one final question before I let you go. So it's like we have been working from home for quite some long time now. So maybe 6 or 8 months now. So how has been your experience from home, and where do you see this trend going forward?
So I hope I was a prophet and I could predict where it's going forward. Initially, I mean, the struggle is there with everybody. I think we are trying to do the best about what we can. But the best part about this lockdown and being in home is that there's a lot of more time that we are able to give to our family and kids. And that's the positive side of it. And I think we should look at the positive side than the negative side. So I hope things would become better, and we would get back to see in conferences face to face over virtual, and interact with a lot of more people face to face. I hope that things would become better coming down 6 months.
Thank you so much, Ranjit, for your views. And yes, certainly, we are also hoping that things get back to normal at the earliest, and we can host a physical conference once again very
Absolutely.
soon.
Absolutely.
Yes. So thank you so much, Ranjit, for your time and sharing your thoughts with us. And we are really glad to have you as the speaker. And I would like to welcome you once again on behalf of the entire team. And we are really looking forward for your session.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And